Thanks for tuning to another episode of the CIAS podcast. I'm here with my friend Brice Davis coming to us live from Jacksonville. We just discovered that we are fellow Florida bros. So it's even cooler to get to hang out and know that we're doing stuff from the Sunshine State today. So, man, how's it going up north, Brice?
It's good. It's hot.
Yeah, man, it is hot, right? Well, man, I'm excited. I've been following along your journey on social media, and this is the first time we've actually connected like in real time like this. So I'm excited just to dig into, how God's been leading you, and you're doing some really cool stuff. I love the style and just the feel and the way that you're kind of, chasing this kind of folky, kind of cool thing. So, man, I'm excited for people to hear about that. But, it always starts at the beginning. So how did you kind of jump in, start doing music from the start?
Yeah. So I didn't have any kind of musical background. No one in my family really played music. I remember growing up with my parents always played vinyls and stuff. So like we were super big into, always playing like some Eagles vinyls around the house, stuff like that. Maybe
Oh,
Creedence
yeah.
Clearwater, Jim Croce. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely had parents who had great taste in music. And so has always been interested in music, but never really played it. And so in high school, got this game. It's called Guitar Hero. It was like all the rage at the time, and
Yes.
yeah, you're
Sure
clicking
was.
buttons around and pretending to play a guitar. And if you've never played an instrument before, you probably think that maybe you could pick up one and it'd be pretty easy to it would translate well, and then it's not the case. And so I got
It's like air guitar with buttons, right?
that's right. Yeah. So that game, it got me interested in like wanting to actually play it because I was like, oh man, I can play Freebird on Expert. Let me go pick up a real a real guitar. So I went
I'm
to
a
Guitar
shredder,
Center.
obviously.
That's
Yeah.
right. I got this Ibanez for like $150 from like a summer lifeguard gig I had, and then realized that it was a lot harder than it seemed. So ended up getting I tried to pick it up and play some songs I was enjoying at the time, and didn't have those calluses built on my fingers or have any idea what I was doing. And so I kind of put it away for a while, and then went off to college, and remember kind of picking it back up because I used to see guys like around with a guitar, and they seemed to be the ones that could get the girls. And so I was trying to be that guy. But yeah,
Worth
picking
the
it up, and
calluses for the girls, right?
that's right. Yeah, it's no the pain and the suffering is worth it. So yeah, didn't have like great motives at the time. Obviously, just wanted to learn a guitar to pick up some girls and get some extra dates. But kind of starting to hone my craft through then in college, I really learned guitar pretty well and took it more seriously. Started songwriting, and I wasn't a Christian at the time, so anything I recorded, I wasn't making Christian music. It was pretty secular. But fast forward, like later on in life, I'd met my wife, and she eventually led me to the Lord within our
Hmm.
marriage. And yeah, then I started using my talents just for the glory of God. So started songwriting and recording stuff and putting it out that would be honoring to Christ. And yeah, it's kind of where it's been from there.
Man, that's awesome. And that I had the same experience, but I was the bass player, and I was like, I want to play bass because my friend plays guitar, so I should learn. If we want to be in a band, that's what you got to do. But it was like it hurt my fingers so bad. I was like, I'm not going to keep doing that at all. And so, yeah, I totally resonate with that. It's like it hurts, but then it's like it's worth the pain.
That's
So, yeah,
right.
that's awesome. So, okay, so yeah, picked it up. We're doing it, and then that's amazing that your wife led you to, kind of refocusing where you're singing to, essentially. So,
Mhm.
how did you take it from, kind of picking up and dabbling to like, okay, Brice Davis is going to be a thing. I'm putting out Christian music, and like I'm going to kind of pursue this in a more significant way in my life.
Yeah, I think it's just been like organic. I don't know. There's really not like a better word to kind of describe it. I didn't ever really intend for it to be something that maybe has some of the intent. Not that I'm not Justin Bieber, have some huge name out there or anything, but it's gained some
Yeah.
traction like over the past year or two, and I've just always seen it as a form of ministry, and I've wanted to steward the gift the Lord has given me for His glory, and to as a form of evangelizing and telling more people about Jesus and how to find life in Him. And so I've just
Mm.
entrusted this gift to the Lord and said, God, thank you for the talent, and I want this to be about you. And so if you choose 10 people to listen to it, I'll be content with that. And if you choose 10 million people to listen to it, I'll be content with that too. So I've just allowed him to take it where it is. And if he needs me to make music and focus on that full time, I'll do it. But if he's called me to a different avenue and I need to pursue ministry in a normal career and things like that too. I'm open to wherever he puts me, but I've definitely been enjoying this go larger scale lately. It's been great.
Yeah, man, I've been thinking about this. This is kind of goofy, but so am I. So it makes sense. Like the idea of like, there's the expression like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Right. But I'm like, what about if the cake is seeking first the kingdom and then the eat it too is, and all these will be added unto you?
Mm.
Because I think in the God economy, we can do both, but as long as we're seeking him first, then the other things can happen. But that's difficult because we want to seek what we want to seek. We were just talking before here about like my own personal journey about, Nashville, wanting to go to Nashville and do that thing. And then like all of a sudden we didn't do that. And now we get to do what we wanted to do and what we feel called to do. And then the other stuff as well. And it sounds like that's, where you're at. Cause, obviously like if someone goes to your, which I'll link this at the bottom, if someone goes to your Instagram, they're going to see that, you have a pretty significant following, and so like, but as you seek God, he's going to add those people to you. You're not doing that. You're not striving for that. And then that's when that can really pop off because like, we can't, I mean, sure, there's ways to force it, but ultimately that's not going to be like calling or ministry. That's going to be like striving to make something happen. So I love that. So I would like, for anyone listening who's, wanting, they're going to be like, well, Brice seems to have figured out something. So like, what is your, on the practical side of things, like, you started this Instagram or you started social media stuff. Like, what have you found has kind of worked? What hasn't worked? How has that process led you to having, a pretty decent following?
Yeah, I think it's been a journey for sure. I think in the past, I made music a lot of the times, and then I was just kind of entrusting it to the Lord solely, and kind of just like, all right, Lord, well, I recorded this song now, like get it out there and like have people hear it. But
Yeah.
there's I should have had the scripture prepared in my mind, but there's one about like we watch, the Lord watches over the city, but you still like have a guard standing. So like there's a dual responsibility there. And so I never really went at it with that mindset. But as of recently, maybe last year, I started really trying to promote it. I was like, well, I've put all this energy and effort into this music and I want people to hear it. And so I'm gonna start making short form content to promote this. And so I think the biggest thing is just understanding like there is a market for this. I don't like to talk
Hmm.
about like Christianity as like branding because it's about Jesus and a relationship with them, but there is an aspect of where this is something that you market and you market it specific, like in a very niche way to what you're going after. So you have to have a sound. I think I was all over the map in the past. I would maybe make like some pop songs and then like I think even one song in the past I like rapped on somehow. Like it's just
Why
really
wouldn't you? B Davy up in here.
exactly. And so yeah, I think the Lord has been gracious to like allow me to find my sound. Like I really enjoy a folksy sound. I enjoy playing banjo and all kinds of folk instruments like mandolin, and so that kind of came. And then I'm just wanting to find the people that like that type of music, and so I started just making short form content. Trying to be witty and funny and like making catchy, grabby things. And so once I
Yeah.
siloed in on like this is my sound. I make music about Jesus. It's nothing else. Like, so you can like it and follow on the journey, or if you want to leave a mean comment, you can do that too, and I'll let the Lord handle it. But
Which
yeah,
I'm sure happens.
all the time. I know. Sometimes that could be a difficult part of it, but
Yeah.
it's humbling at the same time too. And the Lord uses that even to grow my faith and entrust myself to Him even
Mm,
more. So, but yeah, I don't think there's a secret
man.
sauce. It's just finding a sound and marketing it to the right people, knowing that there's a specific group that it's intended for, and there's a specific group it's not.
Well, for anyone listening, explain your sound that you've kind of come to, because I know it, but tell the people what kind of you do. How do you approach sort of your worship CCM thing?
Yeah, it's very what's the word to describe? I have these reels that I put out usually like every couple of Tuesdays, and it kind of highlights some of the playlists that my music is added to, and people seem to enjoy it. It's kind of fun, and it gives a good sound, like a
Yeah.
description to the sound. And so, I guess if I
Yeah.
were to say what my audience would describe my music as, is they would say it's like granola, camper life, like van girl,
Hmm.
Bigfoot at the altar, banjos in the pulpit. Like those are some of them. And so I think evangelism and chickens is one. So it's a really earthy
That's
sound.
glorious.
Yeah, it's I have a couple of different things. So I make original music and I write, original songs, but then I've had one where it's more, and those are more like traditional folksy, like you're gonna get just a lot of banjo and like acoustic and stomp and holler type feel. And then I've
Uh-huh.
also had a project ongoing where I'm covering the hymns, and so I've taken traditional classic hymns and I've really like made them upbeat and folksy, and those are more of like a bluegrass style where they're really like you're gonna clap along and you're gonna want to like holler to them, and they're pretty fun. So yeah, it's just really earthy
Yeah.
granola, natural, no processing. I don't, no auto tune or anything like that. So
So are you self-produced? Are you a one-man show, or what kind of team do you have kind of around what you're doing?
yeah, one man show as far as like the recording and the
Yeah.
like kind of mapping out the song. And then I work with one individual who's just been awesome from a production standpoint. So he mixes and masters my stuff, and his name's
Cool.
Lucas, and he's just been like phenomenal to work with, and he really brings my stuff to life.
Finding that creative partnership like that is so clutch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you don't have to do it. Because I know for me, producing from or writing all the way to mastering, it's like I've probably gotten too close to this one, So like handing it off and then getting that fresh perspective is so nice, and I think critical to not just because nobody wants gatekeepers, but I think they could be positive if you've got someone on the right team to like
Mm-hmm.
gatekeep, like, well, I would have maybe mixed this different, or I hear what you did there. Like I just got a mix back from somebody working on a project, and like the way that he mixed it, he brought out stuff that I forgot was literally even in the production because I've been working on it so long. It's like, oh yeah, you really. So it takes that fresh ear to do that. So that's awesome that you have found that. So you mentioned, Tuesdays you do a playlist. So do you have kind of a like social media posting schedule? Like do you batch content? Like what's that kind of overall? And I will say too, like when, because yeah, Christian music and marketing is like, it's a weird thing, but I always go to like the parable of the talents, and like the only one that God's like, you're wicked, get out of here, was the one who didn't make any more of what God gave him. He blessed and encouraged and said, good job, my faithful servant, to those who took what he gave them and made more of it by getting it out into the world, So
Mm.
that's always my sales. That's always my thing about marketing. It's like, God didn't call us to take what we gave us and bury it and then give it back to him. He wants us to take it out, and then he rewards us. And two, I always thought about like, okay, in that parable, he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Like that's literally what we want to hear when we're at heaven's gates. So I feel like it's a pretty like direct thing. Like we got to take our calling, our gifting, our craft, and like put it out there and see how far God will take it. So yeah. So with that, with your, like, do you have kind of a social media strategy involved?
Yeah, that's a good word. That was encouraging for me to hear because I think I wrestle with that because it's
Yeah.
I think when you post, social media is so like me. It's so showy, and
Yeah.
Christianity is the adverse of that, right? It's like it's
Mhm.
Jesus, it's about him, and it's like dying to yourself and getting away from that. But in order to, it kind of lives in this like this dual land where you're like promoting you, but it's really for Jesus, but you don't want it to be about you. So it's a really odd space. But
Yeah.
I found like I've tried to see reels just as the name like states, it's like to reel someone in. So I see reels as like a way
Hmm.
to like get my music out there to attract new target audiences. And so I'll try and make those like you have to kind of describe to like those new folks like who you are and what it is in like a really short form content. And so I found, consistently like every other Tuesday making those like, hey, here's playlists that have added my music. Cause those are really easy descriptions of like they're engaging and they're fun, but it also gives people insights into like what my music is about. So it's like, here's some captions of like playlist titles. And if you think that you like these names, you're probably going to like my music. And so that's been a really huge way to gain followers and get
Hmm.
new listeners in. And then a lot of the other ones are I used to post like every day, and I think that that was helpful at first, but then it just becomes overwhelming. Like the more you grow, because people don't want to hear from you like all the time, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, I think I've tried to mix it up too. So reels to get new engaged members and have consistency in reels and the content you're posting, and then posts would be like, I see those as updates. Like, hey, I just released a new song or a new EP or an album. Those are for like your engaged followers, and that's to give them updates, or I'm playing a show, things like that. And then stories, I'll use that probably the most as a means to like provide, something that's coming in the future, or just be engaging with those who are most engaged with me too. Like posing questions or things like that to really interact with people, because that's what this is about. It's about people. We couldn't make music if there's no one to listen to it, so building those relationships through stories. But yeah, I don't think there's like a specific like mechanism or method. It's really just about switching it up a lot, not staying stagnant, not being too repetitive, and having fun with it. And I don't take myself too seriously. A lot of it's like me like wandering in a field or something stupid. So
Yeah, no, I mean that's true. Like I've sometimes I've been a part of the actually I am now, but the Instagram like Reels bonus whatever program, and like so you're like, oh well, the more you post, the more reach you'll get. But then like after like 2 weeks or so of everyday posting, you're like, I don't have anything inspired to share really. So maybe, dialing it back. I mean, I think it can be a trap though. Cause like, oh, well, I'm going to wait till I'm inspired, and it's like, well, that may never happen. It might happen, but I've always heard it like a true, maybe this is more for like the writing room, but like a great quote was like, an amateur songwriter writes when they're inspired, and a professional songwriter writes until they're inspired. So I feel
mm,
like that can translate to social media too. Like we can sit down and we know we want to get something out there, and we can figure out how to feel and make it be an inspiring piece of content. But like then it's like you just because if you wait too long, it's like, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and then I'll do it next week, and then it's like, well, then no one knows what you're doing. So
mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like that is kind of a theme of your music. It is organic from the sound
Yeah,
of it to the
just
strategy
happens.
behind it, right?
Yeah, it's just been natural, which is kind of cool. I just think it's like there's like a mixing up of it too, like there's because you think of like when MTV comes on the scene, or like VH1 or whatever it was, there's all these like music videos. Like it's
Hmm.
weird to promote music visually. Like that's the weird part. And that's what you have to do on Instagram. And
Yeah.
so you have to have like some sort of like thing that people know what they're watching, because we live in this microwave society where people are just like they're scrolling and they're not stopping unless it's something that's like, whoa, I need to stop for a second. And so that's where like when you use video, the song has, I think the production, the song has to be good first of all, so people like stop, but also there
Hmm.
needs to be some sort of caption so they know what it is that they're like engaging in. And so that's probably the biggest thing that's been helpful is like when you scroll on your phone and you come across my video, are you going to know within the first 3 seconds of like what this is?
That's good. So, have you found as your following has grown, is that have a direct correlation to your like Spotify streaming and like opportunity? Like, how is that all kind of rising? How does the tide rise together now that you're kind of making a bigger impact on Instagram and social media in general?
Yeah, I wish it was one for one, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wish for every new follower it was, a new streamer. So that doesn't seem to happen. Some people, like I mentioned, I make like content too that like people want to find new playlists, and sometimes I'm like witty and I can have like humorous posts, and so people might follow me just for stuff like that. But I will say, like with the social media rising, there is a rise in like streams and an engagement on like platforms like Spotify and Apple and all of that. I'd probably say the conversion rate is probably somewhere around like 30 to 40%. So if you that's probably what I've grown by, like in streams in comparison to the amount of followers. It's about like a 30 to 40% increase. So but yeah, it'd be cool if it was a like a 1 to 1, like I said.
Yeah, which so that's something else too, and I think this is important. Like I'm kind of getting the sense where like you're not just posting, here's my new song, here's my new song, here's my new song. It's I mean, we all know, we've all watched the YouTube videos where it's, you are the brand and you are the whatever, but like I found too in my own posting, I almost try to treat the music as the back, like almost like syncing your own song, right? Like the story is what's in the front and the song is elevating whatever that moment is that, because if you're posting about playlists you're on, you're not directly saying, here's my new song, whatever, like you're kind of, this is like my vibe, so have you found like how, I know I'm throwing this on you on the spot, but like you'd say like, what's your ratio from like posting about like directly like, here's my song, listen to me play it or sing it, or like, here is, Brice's vibe overall as far as like storytelling side, which like, what would you say your like ratio is in that posting strategy?
Yeah, I probably, that's a good question. I think that I maybe post the broader thing a lot less. So I would say that's probably like 25% of the time. And then direct, like, hey, this is my music, is probably 75% of the time. But I would
Yeah.
say what's interesting is I probably get an equal amount of engagement and like translation into streams from a 25% and a 75%. Because what happens is
Interesting.
on those videos I'll post about playlists. So those tend to be the most successful. Like they do pretty well every time. And they help other Christian artists, which is like phenomenal. Like I love that, like my music's on there and then other people get heard and notice, and they get traction as well. So that's like so cool to me. It's like the more people can hear Christian music and about Jesus is awesome. But what'll happen is like these playlists, I'll find them because my music will be on them. You can see them on the Spotify app. They'll have like one
Mm-hmm.
save, and it's usually just like the person who made it. And then after this video post, they will have like upwards of like 3,000 saves sometimes. So like they grow
Wow.
exponentially, and people share them and they play them. And so you'll notice from those videos alone, just organically again, like my music will just naturally like increase in streams because there's more people listening to those playlists. So that's
Mm.
how those work. And then the ones where it's just me promoting my music solely, I think those are more so like maintenance. Like you have the ones where you're like, I have a new song coming out. And then if you promote it well, you'll see on the first day or weekend it comes out, it typically is going to do better because you like grew awareness of it. But then
Mm-hmm.
if it's not like a promotional one and you're just like, hey, I made this song like a month ago, you're kind of just wanting to make something captivating where people will share it and help spread your music. Like, hey, this is out there, go listen to it. So that's why
Yeah.
those sometimes don't, it takes them a little bit longer because it's like it's not something as like catchy or captivating.
That's so good, man. That's, yeah, I'm taking notes. So so are you finding, cuz you're again organically, so are you getting any like editorial love on your music, or is this more like pushing straight from like Instagram, social media into Spotify?
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing is if you get put on these playlists and then these other playlists start to grow, then you have a greater chance of Spotify noticing you to put you on one of their editorials. And so, yeah, I've been on a New Music Christian Friday. I've been on like Mountain Church, Newgrass. I've made quite a few like editorial playlists of Spotify, which is like super. The first time I got on, that's been my goal for like so long, is because
Yeah.
it's just hard. Like there's so many songs that are submitted every week, and it's like the chances.
Mhm.
Sometimes I used to think like, are they even like listening to this or receiving my submission? But yeah, I've been
Yeah.
on three, which is like so cool. So yeah.
Man, and that definitely helps drive up those streams pretty fast. And then I wonder if that brings people back to Instagram like that. Kind of
Hmm.
it is like once the ball starts to roll, it continues to just kind of elevate. So like where was a point in like as you're posting, you went from like, has it been kind of a gradual like growth, specifically in social media because people love talking about this stuff, and you're doing great. So I love to highlight this for people. So, like, was there like one video that all of a sudden was like, whoosh, I got 10,000 followers overnight, or has it kind of been incremental?
Yeah, it happens in waves for sure. So it'll
Yeah.
be there is like a slow and steady growth that's happening now just because it's like been out there and I think the page is like established now. But
Hmm.
it started, I think I had 600 followers in August of last year. So and then now I'm somewhere around like
Wow.
98,000, I think. And so I had a video that I posted and it wasn't even like, to me it wasn't a great video or anything, and it was old. Like I think when it started like catching, it was maybe like a month or two old at the time, and something just happened, and It got traction and it went to like 500,000 views. And I think I went from 600 followers to like 25,000. And then I had like
Wow.
slow and steady growth. And then another video would hit, and maybe I think that one went up to like it hit like 1 million or something like that. And then I maybe had another
Yeah.
wave of like 20,000 followers. So yeah, it's happened like that. So it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, a couple of videos just it's so strange because we feel like maybe that's just our like you said microwave culture. It's like I want to post a video, I want to wake up and see 1 million views, or else it's a failure. So like the video that really introduced you into your pocket of people was 1 or 2 months after you posted it. So I mean, I
Hmm.
feel like that's encouraging to anybody. Is like now this is super nerdy stuff, but like, do you use like why can't I speak? Because I'm always like, should I say niche or niche? And it throws me off, you know? So, yeah. So, like, niche specific hashtags, like when you're posting, because obviously you have a target that you're going for. And like, are you using those kind of hashtags? Are you one of those guys just doesn't even use hashtags?
No, I do use them. Like how relevant they are, like how much they help. I'm not sure, but I not use the same ones, like
Yeah.
like Christian folk, Christian music, like stuff like that. But I don't think
Yeah.
any. It will show you on your like on some of your insights, like how many people saw the post from like hashtags, or if it just came across their like recommended, and the amount that saw it through hashtags is like super low. So I don't think it has a lot of relevance.
Yeah, it's just a matter of waking up that audience and then it's serving it up to them. Yeah, because we all love those insights because and that's to anyone listening, like Instagram, make sure you have a creator or a business page so you can check those insights because it definitely matters. Because I know for me, like I don't know if this is just me, but like I feel like sometimes my videos with the most views, it doesn't necessarily translate to followers.
Hmm.
The followers that I'm finding, and maybe this is true for you too, is like, are you getting a lot of? Well, I guess if the video gets big enough, it all happens. But like when you're sharing your specific music, do you find the percentages of getting followers is higher than say the playlist videos, or is it the reverse of that?
Yeah, it would be the amount of followers would be higher on ones where I just promote my music, because I think those are the ones where
Right.
people are like, I'm going to follow him because this is what he's about. Like I know he makes, Christian folk music. Whereas like the playlist ones, I will get followers, but I feel like those are more so like I'm going to follow him because I like this specific video series. And I
Hmm.
when I create them, I say like this is part 9, this is part 10. And so they know there's more parts coming. And so I think
Yeah.
those folks who follow from those videos, those are probably more interested in like me making another video like that. But the hope is that they listen to the playlist, they come across my music, and then they're like, oh, actually, like I want to hear his stuff regardless. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so I've nerded out, and I appreciate you putting up with all my questions because I know people are like, "Yes, I'm going to follow what he's doing because he's killing it." So with that, like, what types of opportunities, maybe live, maybe like, how have you once because you've had a pretty massive influx of followers in a pretty short period of time. So how are you rolling with that? Is that translating into shows, merchandise? Like, where are you going with now that you have a platform?
Yeah, I think I want to play more shows for sure. Like I actually just had one that I opened up for Josiah Queen. It was sold out at Murray Hill, and it was like just a super awesome experience. Like it was so cool. And that was like one of the first times, because the shows I played in the past, like none of this had really happened yet. Like, I had way less streams, like way less of a following. And so this was one of the first times where when I was playing, I could see people like mouth words to my songs at the show. And then they wanted to like, not that it's about me, but it was a cool experience that was like, they want to take your picture, get your like autograph after the show. And so that to me was like
Yeah, invested in
encouraging.
your artistry.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is making an impact. Like people are listening, like keep going with it. And so, yeah, that was like definitely a catalyst for setting my heart on fire to like want to play more shows, to engage with people. Like that was the best part. And then
Yeah.
merchandise wise, I think I have like a merch store out there, but it was like from a long time ago. So I probably need to kind of go back and take a look at what exactly is on there. And but yeah, I think the main intent is I just want to keep making music and content that people are going to engage and hear about the music, so that they can know Christ better and have a better relationship with him and fall in love with him more.
Yeah, man, that's so. Do you think like you'd want to do like worship nights, but kind of in your own style? Like, what is your, because your venue, you're not playing like the modern sound of worship, which is great,
Hmm.
and I love that. So like, do you see yourself wanting to like kind of go into secular market to do what you do, or do you kind of like doing more of like a worship night church type venue situation?
Yeah, I think it would probably be the latter. It probably would. I think just for the sound that I have, it probably works better from an aesthetic standpoint, but also just logistically to like do kind of church, church worship nights, things like that. Yeah, I think like traveling, I would be open to like doing house shows. I think those could be pretty cool. Obviously if it makes sense to do it, but I know some people have done those in the past and had pretty successful stints with people opening up their homes and bringing like 50 to 100 people in and just like having a an awesome night of worship. So I think that could be cool too.
Yeah, and also I'm gonna have you come down here and play worship night at my church. So hey,
Yeah, I'd love
it's
it.
gonna happen. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So, but man, yeah, I love it. I love that. Like I always think about like titles of episodes, and it's like this is such like an organic thing. You're not trying to force a thing, and that's what's so difficult for you know social media and just the state that we're all in. Is like we feel like, okay, I got to be doing this, and that doesn't mean you're not working hard and grinding, because you obviously are doing that, but like you're not trying to like create anything. You're just trying to chase where God is leading you, and then he's doing what he wants to do through you and reaching the people that he needs to through you. So I mean, just the whole thing, I feel like that is so critical. But yeah, it takes a certain amount of restraint to not like, all right, I'm going to do this way, and this is how it's going to be, and like that wouldn't work, because a lot of people, they have 600 followers on Instagram forever, because they might be trying to do something outside of what their calling is, and that's not necessarily wrong. It's just that's not how God is choosing to use that particular person. But I think the encouragement from that is like, just be yourself. Find yeah, find what makes you inspired, and just share it. Like, it is that simple, right? I mean, it sounds like
It
that's kind of
is.
what you do.
Yeah,
You
I will
know?
say like the one thing like maybe from the past that's been different too is I mentioned the person I work with now from like a mixing and mastering standpoint. I used to try and do it myself and I'm just not gifted in that arena. And so there's a lot of people out there who probably try and do it themselves and your sound probably like suffers as a result. And there's a lot of people who do it well. So
Hmm.
I'm not this is not all encompassing. But sometimes you might not be getting the engagement you want because your sound is not sounding its best. And I will say like in a world where people are flipping very fast, it has to be crisp audio, it has to sound good. You may you might be grinding and making all this great content, and it could be the most engaging video, but if the sound is not there, people aren't going to listen. So I think that's something I would have told myself a lot earlier because I used to make some terrible sounding music.
Yeah, we all start there, right? And the hope is that those don't get heard, but sometimes they do. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a good word. So team. So I know I kind of asked you before, but everything else you're doing it yourself, right? You got a mixing and mastering guy, and you're doing all your content, all your distribution. Everything is all just you're you and the Lord.
Yeah, that's mainly the Lord. He's opened up doors and talents and time. The biggest thing is sometimes it can be hard to balance. I do work like full time too, and so like with that, and I'm a dad of two, like almost three, and a husband, and then making the music, the social media content, and then once you have if you have more followers, then you're gonna have more like engagement with those followers, like responding to messages and comments and things. So it is like a super big grind, but I feel like the Lord has been that's one thing is he's like supplied the strength and the grace to like be able to balance it all like decently well so far.
Yeah. Well, since you brought that up, speak to that balance. How do you balance that? Because that is a thing. Because anytime I post anything anywhere about what's some pain points on a music journey, it's money and time. It's always those things. So obviously, that is obviously true. But like
Hmm.
the time thing, I feel like you can save up the money, you can work the money part out, but the time part, we can't invent more time. So like, how do you do all those things? I know it's a process, but like, what is your way to make that all kind of work?
Yeah, I'm still navigating it, but I think The first thing is like prioritizing your relationship with the Lord, because nothing's gonna, apart from Him, you can't do anything. You can't bear fruit. And so the one thing is, like, I'm an early riser. I get up and I'm gonna spend time in the Word. And I'm gonna have a relationship with the Lord first and foremost, and He's gonna set my heart on fire for what the day's needs are and the task ahead. So He'll supply the grace I need for that day and the strength, and then it's also going to involve like some later nights sometimes. My wife is pretty good about keeping me accountable and like seeing if I'm burnt out or like if I'm sacrificing in an area where I shouldn't be. So I rely on her. And then she
Hmm.
also is gracious to sacrifice time in our marriage, where she allots me like 2 to 3 nights a week where after the kids go to bed, I'm going to go up into my home studio and I'm going to start recording music from like 8 p.m. to like 11. So 3 hours, you can knock out a pretty good amount, 9 hours a week maybe. And
Yeah.
then having someone help me with the mixing and mastering has taken away a lot of time. So partnering with people around you that, as well. And then the money standpoint, I know that's not as, we talked about it not being as big of an impact, but I see as like, this is an investment. It's a ministry, but it's also an investment where if you put money into it, like, there is a return that's expected too. So I think that's one thing is like, I'm a Gator football fan, Florida Gators. Their coach, they're not very good right now, but their coach has this quote and he says like, scared money don't make money. And so
Mm,
I've
that's
always
good.
said like, I've got to invest some money in this music. So like I will, paying for like a good mix and master. And like, maybe if I need a session musician on something, like someone to really come in and like play some instrument that I think would really make the track great that I don't play. And then you hope that's an investment where you're going to get a return on it from like the product is better. So you're going to get more streams and maybe more income.
Man, I love that. And it reminds me of I had my friend Todd Fields on, who's a hero in the faith, and he talked about God math, and I use that term all the time. My wife and I talk about God math all the time. It's like, because we talk, obviously the Bible speaks to tithing, and we know that that's specifically financial, but also like I have to believe that we tithe our time through our calling, like to the Lord. He will take that and multiply that
Mm.
exponentially, and it takes, so like you said, like 9 hours a week is a lot when you are on top of being dad every minute of the week and you're being working 40 hours, whatever, or more, and all those things. So like he sees all of that, and he will, like you said, he will take it and make more of it. Kind of like back to the parable of the talents thing. I don't know. Maybe that's the theme of my mind today. Like
Yeah.
we invest our time, we don't bury it and hide it and then give it back to him. We just say, okay, God, like I'm going to sacrifice. My wife knows that she sees, the potential in this too. It's for the future of our family, legacy, all those things. So it's like, go up there, do the thing, and like let God take it from there. And he will take that 9 hours a week and he will do things we can't even imagine, cause I remember for me, like when I started going to Nashville, I'd come home and I would just come in here and I would just start to produce songs that were all probably terrible and no one will hear them. I mean, at all. And that's fine. But hours and hours after a full work day at the church, and with two babies at home, and like, Susie would just let me come in here and do the thing. And I would just get really, the only problem for me is I get super excited and it'd be like 11:30 at night. And I like, now I got to go to sleep. Like I'm super excited. I can't wait to hear the mix in the morning. That just happened. And then you wake up, you're like, it sounded better last night for sure. But yeah, it's like that time, because that's not glamorous. No one sees it. It's, you're just going up and just doing the work, and nothing can stand in the way of that work. But I feel like that work is necessary to refine your craft, to lean into your calling, and God's going to speak and use that time that we like. That for musicians, songwriters, like that's our secret place at times, right?
Yeah.
You
That's so
know,
true.
So like we're going before the Lord, especially as we're writing for him and to him. And like, yeah, it's an offering of our calling. We're saying, God, like we know you've given us the inspiration to do this. We're going to cut out the time to do it. Like you said, you start your day in Devo, but it almost in a way, in those, not that it always feels like it, but you're ending your day in worship as you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're dropping it out and letting people in on it. And his spirit and his hand is on that. And that's why it can reach so many because he's in that. We think like, I don't know, people are weird about social media and stuff, but like God uses all things to draw people to him. Instagram is a part of all things, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think too, like
So,
like songwriting takes time too, right? So that's like another aspect of it
yeah,
is like you can't make music unless you're like writing it. And so I think a part that
right.
helps is if you are having those intentional moments with the Lord and you're in his word, especially if you're a Christian artist, well, I guess like really if you're a Christian artist, then that's where like your songs are going to come from, like I always joke that my music is I plagiarize all of it because it is directly it's just scripture, like I'm just singing scripture. And so
Yeah.
um that's that's helpful in your songwriting is if you have the spirit filling you with scripture and that's what's like circulating within your heart and your mind, that's going to come out on paper and the songs just flow from that. So that's
Mm.
another reason just to be engaged in the word and relationally with the Lord.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that is the key to it all, because like if we will overcome by the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony, like literally the word of our testimony hits the page as we write songs sometimes. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And if we're using scripture directly, that just makes it easy because we know that those words are real good, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
you know, but also, sometimes like, yeah, we do need like people can resonate with our particular experience and they will find, God in that messaging because that's who he's going to, we're all called, I feel like obviously our calling is the purpose of it is to bring glory to God. So like, we kind of get to do it in a cool way where we can share it through songs, and you're able to, get more and more opportunities. And you're ultimately, that's what you're doing is you're sharing your calling that he's given you, through your music. So,
Right.
it takes some of the pressure off, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's still, it's definitely work. It is not, I've said this before. It's like the quote, like, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. And I'm like, false. I feel like if you do what you love, you work harder at it than you work at anything else because you love doing it. That doesn't mean it's not work though.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did say it before. So if that's what your thought was, but I always like to ask people like, what is a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self? And you said something about, not maybe all relying, but any other like wisdom that you'd be like, Brice, this is what you should not do, or this is what you definitely should lean into more, kind of, you think back across your journey.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd probably add is like don't be afraid to post. Like I think I used to be insecure about like what people would think of me because
Mm.
we all know like on Instagram, um, when you have people like you went to high school with or you went to college with, and you're like, if I make these
Yeah.
like silly reels, like are they going to be like, what a joke? And so I used to like for a long time like not make any kind of promo videos. I would spend so much time and effort making a song and then never do anything with it, like never promote it. And so, yeah, I would just say like get over that fear of like the praise of man and people pleasing and just like post it and see it as an offering to the Lord. Like that it's not about promoting yourself, but it's like I'm doing this because I want this to reach people for the glory of God. And don't consider like what people think. And you're going to get comments like I mentioned earlier, you're gonna get some real mean stuff, stuff that like should not be allowed to be said. But
Stuff
but
that
don't let it
requires a block button.
exactly, and don't let it deter you. There's there's an evil force in this world, and there's a the prince of the earth is at work too, and he's moving, and he's gonna try and discourage you, and he's gonna use people to do that, and so people are gonna like say really awful things to you, but don't let that deter you. Keep posting, keep promoting it, and entrusting yourself to the Lord.
Yeah, man, that's good. Yeah, because and unfortunately, if my pastor said I love this quote. He said a couple months ago. He said, like if you're not getting friction as you share the gospel, you may not be doing it right. Not that there's a right and wrong way, but the sentiment of it is like you're going to get pushback. If you get a million views in a video, you're going to get some trolls, and there's going to be a lot of them, and that's the voice of the toothless lion, because he doesn't want that to happen because he knows that God uses Instagram to reach people for his, God uses Instagram. So the devil hates that too,
Mm,
so like, but I think it thickens the skin because you can't, if you're going to do anything significant in any way, I mean, look at Paul, I just finished going through through acts, and like he literally gets like beat down like every day and like almost
Yeah.
killed, literally killed one time. He came back to life. I mean, like, I know that's Paul, but like we're just putting songs out, so we're gonna get beat up, but like it's worth it. So I love that you brought that, highlighted that, like you just got to do it, and like it'll thicken your skin. And yeah, unfortunately, if we're probably all the same because we're fragile snowflakes. We could get 100,000, you're amazing, and then one person's like, this sucks, and like, see, I suck
Oh
now.
my gosh,
Like
that's
we
so
only
true.
hear the negative, right?
That's
you
so
know,
true.
like what is that? Why are we only see, like, even if we're optimistic, like we still are so like one out of a million comments and we only focus on the bad one. What is that?
That's right. Yep, that's so true.
I loved hearing what you shared, and so much great wisdom here. I know that I'm definitely encouraged. I know anyone listening will be. So before we go, like, what's the best way for people to find you? Obviously, we talk about Instagram a ton here, so like I'll link it all below. But let people know the best way to connect with you.
Yeah, best way to connect. I'm probably most like active on Instagram. That's the one we talked about the most. So the handle
Yeah,
there is Brice Davis Music, and Brice with an I, not a Y. It's not the common spelling of it. And then yeah, I'm on like TikTok and things like that, but definitely post more of like the updates and what's coming is on Instagram. And then I'm on any streaming platform that you can think of. You can find my music on there too. But yeah, I got mentioned the hymns project, and so there's 6. I'm gonna do 18 total. There's 12 out now, 6 more coming, and then yeah, working on just a new EP of original songs to come out hopefully late summer, early fall. So that's what you can expect moving forward.
awesome, man. Well, I will definitely link all that below, and make sure to go give Brice some follows and all that stuff. Because I don't know if it's just me, but like I always make sure to like give the thumbs up and follow on Spotify, and like, because all those little things matter and it helps push stuff out further. So I love supporting each other in that process, and it literally is effortless to touch the phone screen. So I mean, like, it's like a little thing that can make a big impact, because if hundreds of people do that or save a song, like you said, like you've seen on these Spotify playlists, like those saves actually make an impact. So I
Hmm.
love supporting each other. So I always make sure to give you a like, my friend.
Appreciate it. Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, well, before we go, I always like to pray. So let me pray for you, sir.
Sure.
God, thank you so much for Brice. Thank you so much for his heart and his ability to just chase after you in this organic and natural way, God. And I pray continue just increase of blessing and favor on his music journey, God, as he's literally highlighting hymns in his own unique voice, and in the original songs, as he work on these new songs, just inspire those times where it's just him at 8 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night, whatever it is. And God, just give him the words that you want him to speak, and let him be aware of that. Let him be sensitive, open the eyes of his heart to just take the messages that you need him to release into this world and make it evident and clear as he does that, God. And thank you for his family who gives him the ability and flexibility to do that. And pray that his kids will see how their dad is willing to put in the work to share the calling and burden that you've put on his life to get out this music and share the gospel in his own unique voice, God. We just thank you for the time we spent together, God, and we pray that anyone's listening can find encouragement for their own specific journey as we all do our best to share the power of your love through the music you've given us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.